everyone, welcome to this episode of Carolyn Talks. Today I am joined by filmmaker Jayant Somalkar and producer Shefali Bhushan to talk about their film A Match, which had its world premiere here in TIFF 2023, and I really enjoyed the film. I saw the film and I'm so happy for Jayant and Shefali to join me, because this film is I really enjoy films about young women finding themselves. I think it has some humorous bits, but it's also a very serious film because it talks about female, I wouldn't even say female, I would say female enlightenment in the fact that these characters are learning to discover themselves, especially the female lead. And she's so interesting to me as a character because she's young and she knows what she wants, but she's still kind of insecure because she has to deal with society's pressures. I'm so excited to talk to them about this film called A Match, about a young girl who is meeting with matchmakers to meet the man she's supposed to marry, but I think it's also about her finding herself as a person. So it's a match for herself as a person. So thank you so much for joining me today to talk about the film.
Thank you.
Right. I first have to ask you, Jayant. I have to say, for a male director to write a film like this and to make a film like this where it centers a female character, especially a young woman who is dealing with the pressures of patriarchy and discovering, like, she wants to find herself as an individual, but she's being held down by her parents, she's being held down by her father and by society. I have to ask you, as a male director and writer, what inspired you to make this particular story? Like, what made you say, I'm a male director, I can write this story?
I have seen this whole matchmaking process since my childhood, because I am the youngest one. I have two sisters, older sister. So they got like arranged marriage. They the same whatever you see in the film, the same happened with them. They go through that matchmaking process. The girls used to like sit on the stool and surrounded by the group of men, and they ask questions. So I have seen this whole process since my childhood, and but in 2016, 2016, when I went with my cousin for his matchmaking, basically. Right. So I was there among the group of men, and I wondered what must have been gone in the head of that girl, and what she's feeling. So that time, because in childhood I never thought about it, the whole process, because as a child. But in 2016, when I was in this field, I was like little curious and I was like little disturbed by the whole process. So I thought to say something about this matchmaking process and about this traditional. It's a tradition basically. So in Marathi it is called Kanda Pohacha Karyakram. So I want to say something. I want to say about the whole patriarchy. So then I wrote a script in 2017, and now this year we made this film.
Right. And for you, Shefali, as a producer, how did you become involved in the project with Jayant? Especially when you I'll ask you that first, because I have a question to you about your perception as a woman. But first off, how did you become involved with the project with Jayant?
Well, I got involved in the project with Jayant because I got involved with him. We are also married to each other.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
So yes, so therefore
it's not arranged marriage; it's a love marriage.
Yeah, so therefore we've been sort of bouncing boards for each other for the many years that we've known each other, creatively and logistically and in many ways. So that's how I got involved with the film, and we decided. I am one of the 4 producers who have pooled resources to make this film. Jayant is one of them, and me and 2 other very close friends and well-wishers. So I've been part of the entire journey, and I've been his main cheerleader from the beginning.
Right. So as his main cheerleader, and as a woman, like, when he first conceptualized the idea of making this film, what was your first thought for you personally, and then what did you tell him when you heard what he had to say about the film and his thoughts?
Oh, I when he first narrated the incident to me, I said, "Oh wow, this is really interesting. The way that this goes on, and you must, yes, you absolutely must write this as a film." So he started writing after that.
I have to say, I've always known about this tradition because I grew up I'm from Barbados, but in Barbados there's a lot of Hindu people.
Yeah.
We have a pretty sizable Hindu and Muslim population, and both cultures have like matchmaking cultures, and like I watch a lot of films from not only India but also like Southeast Asia and East Asia. They have like matchmaking is a big part of the cultures, but then ironically, like in Europe, it's the same thing. Like people will think of like, I'll admit, when people watch this film, they probably think of like Jane Austen, like those kind of books, and like Charlotte Bronte. But like matchmaking has always been a part of, I think, global culture.
Right.
You know. But when I watched it, I was so happy to see not only the perception, having that perception from a young girl, but having it told directly to us. Like the opening shot is her. I love this opening sequence because it's her sitting down and she's having the opportunity to interview a young man, you know, like she's the one who's asking him, how much do you weigh, how tall are you, what's your education, who's your family. And I love that that's the first thing that we get to see about the film. So I have to ask you, when you were, because this film is told so specifically from the purview of the protagonist, how did you go casting? Because I think the casting for this film is so important, because like everything that happens works because of who you cast for the film. So tell us about finding your protagonist for this film.
Yeah, casting is very interesting process for this film because I don't know whether you know, but all the actors are like non-actors. All the actors are from the same village and nearby town. So even Savita, Nandini, who plays Savita in the film, she is a third year student from the same college which I have shown in the film.
Okay.
So I was looking for a kind of like girl, like who is little not but short in height and pettish look, and should be in third year, like age point of view. So we started auditioning many girls in the same college, and we found Savita. There is a very interesting story about her. We auditioned a lot of girls. On the same day, we auditioned her also. But audition is like just introduction. Introduce yourself, and if you have prepared something, then please act. Very kind, because they are those were not actors, so
right.
It's just kind of basically how comfortable, how they are in front of camera, confident basically. So we auditioned a lot of girls. Then audition done, and we were like packing everything. So the Nandini came to me and she asked me, "Sir, can I do once more?" So I'm like, "No. We have your tape. We'll let you know the result." "No, sir, I can do better."
Okay.
No, it's okay. "No, sir, I can cry." "No, it's okay. No, I can dance." So she was like very hungry, and I like her passion. So next day we were auditioning few more people in the nearby town, and like audition was going on, and in the middle of audition I saw the same girl, like Nandini. I said, "Why did you come today also?"
And the town is far away. It's about 50 kilometers
50 kilometers.
away.
Oh,
Yeah.
she was determined.
Yeah. So I was like, "Sir, please give me one more chance. I can do better." I'm like, "Okay." And she went on the stage and she performed one monologue. It was very good. So I thought she has something. She has. So I gave her a chota scene from the film, and then she came back after half an hour and she performed the scene. And I found she has that inner. What was I looking for? Like in Savita,
right.
That what you can
The
say?
gravitas.
The gravitas.
Okay.
Yeah. Because by look and by mannerism she was like perfect, but in inner the inner state, I found in Nandini, and that day I decided this is my Savita. And I think that was that we found her like Savita,
And there were many other girls also shortlisted,
Yeah.
but I think he had his mind set on her from that day.
Right.
So we did try out other girls as well, but he kept going back to the thought of casting her as Savita, and finally he did, and it worked
and
out
she
really well.
done a very fabulous job. She's a first time actor, not only actor, we can call it non-actor because they never dreamed of the facing film camera. And like everybody in India, everybody want to become actor, like everybody.
This is our shot. We're gonna get it.
but like people like when we shot the film in the village, like the people from village, like her father, mother, they are very regular villagers. They never ever like dreamed of working in the film or facing any film camera.
Okay, so because all of them are known actors, I have to ask you, what was what did they think of the story? Because this is a story, I think, where you're kind of challenging the culture, but in a very subtle and in a very smart way. Because for these, and it's the characters, they're beginning, like especially for Savita, she's beginning to think, wait, this matchmaking, this culture of matchmaking that we have is putting so much expectations on me. You know, she's like thinking I'm being treated like an object. I'm being judged by people who don't know me, people who don't love me, people who don't even intend to have a relationship with me. And she's like thinking, going through all of these steps. What is my value as a person? What is my value as a girl? What is my value as a potential mother and a caretaker? And she's going through all of this, but what I love about the film is it doesn't explicitly say that. It's all inferred. You know, if you pay attention to the things that she says, if you pay attention to the things that her father says, I think the father is a very interesting character because he himself is being judged by society. He himself is, as he's upholding these patriarchal traditions, he's struggling with the whole idea of, but wait, is patriarchy negatively affecting me too?
Yeah.
But he doesn't realize that he's asking these questions. So what was the while you were doing these auditions, did any Nadili or any of the cast and anyone that you were working with have any thoughts on the story and like what you were trying to do, which is like say, think about this from a different perspective, like how you said you never thought about the whole matchmaking from the perspective of the girl, but in the film you're kind of doing the same. You're asking people to think about her perspective.
I think first of all, I never shared the whole script with them. Because for them, acting in the film was like itself was a very big thing. But talking about the subject and whole Darot Rao, who plays name Taranath, who plays Darot Rao, like Savita's father. We discussed the thing, like they knows they are just following traditions, like whole the matchmaking process. They never question themselves or they never question system. They are they might feel this is bad, but they never question because like some tradition are going on. They just you go with the flow. So when I
like you did, you were going with the flow, so you had that like bubble.
We discussed the script, when I told about the story, they I think they thankfully they never questioned me why you are showing this like this, you are like making some comment our system. They never, they had faith on me, they had faith on the subject, and they said you are doing like you are doing really good, like because there should be discussion. There should be because as I said, I was I saw all the process since my childhood, but never questioned. But in 2016, I felt little like this was I have this engineering background. I had like my seniors rag me in first year. So when the girl was sitting there and people were asking questions, it felt like it's not ragging, but it's a kind of ragging. So that time I thought no, we have to talk about it.
And he has a feminist for a wife.
I that's what I was gonna ask you. No, because the thing is, it's a very feminist film, right?
Yeah.
It's a film, and that's one of the subplots in the film. Is like she has this teacher who I was just like, sir, you need to step away. But she has this teacher who's teaching sociology. He's teaching about feminism. Yeah. But as he's teaching about feminism, he's asking his students, what is feminism? You know, what is
women empowerment?
What is female empowerment?
Yeah.
He's kind of contradicting that with his own actions outside the school, right? I'm like, you're teaching female empowerment, but you're looking at this young girl. First of all, you're her teacher. Conflict of interest right there. That's inappropriate. But then it's just like you're teaching it from a theoretical point, but you're not living it from a practical point. So I wanted to ask you now, as a feminist, like from your perspective, as not only as a feminist, but I want, from having like maybe seen other young women go through this, whether in your family or in your neighborhood, seeing a story being told from the perspective where you were just like, finally someone is thinking about how we feel in this moment, how we are being looked at as cattle. And I do have to say, me being black from the Caribbean, like my culture, my heritage comes from slavery, you know, from like Africans that were brought up to the Caribbean. And it made me think of how like people, like especially for women, we're always judged on our looks, you know, like what can we do for other people. And it's the same way, like for enslaved Africans, it was the same way. We would be put on the cell block and people would judge us on our bodies, you know, on the weight of like is this slave going to be good for working in the field? Is this going to be someone to work in the house? You know, like is she childbearing and that kind of stuff. So when I saw the film, it kind of made me think about that, how we are always judged. You know, how women in particular are always judged about what we can do for other people. So from a feminist perspective, what was your thoughts on the film being focused on a woman, like and showing showing it from her perspective?
No, I think it's absolutely fantastic because, he and I will often get into a debate about there are things that happen in society, how women are meant to play a certain role. They'll eat after the men, they'll serve the men first, the hot food, and then if there is, they'll eat after that, and if suppose it gets over, then they'll just skip that, or they'll start making it afresh, etc. So he and I often discuss that, I'm not comfortable with this and we should talk about it. And he'll say, it's okay, I mean, things change slowly.
Yeah.
These are traditions and they're used to it and they're not even thinking about it in a certain way, so you have to give it time. And so I think I'm a lot more vocal, and I think that he is more effective because he's not vocal in the situation, but then he'll go and make a film about it, which will make a lot more people think. So I think that's a good strategy, and I'm really happy for that.
So because C comes from a very different background. I come from a different background. Like I come from the same society, same village. So I think in rural India, basically, in rural, the things are still like they are changing. As he said, it takes time. The things are changing, but but in urban India, like in terms of arranged marriage, like girl and boy talk to each other. Like there is an arranged marriage, but people like girl and boy talk. But in rural India, again, girls have no freedom to ask questions to the suitor or a match, or they don't talk before the marriage. Now people talk on the phone or text, but not like very comfortable.
Right.
Again, it depends on the caste, where you come from, your economic status. Like what I show in the film is like they are from very middle class people. They are farmer family. So again, it's a very it's a class and you can say caste thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and the thing is, even though this story is set in rural India, I think it's a very universal story because they were saying like for even like me from the Caribbean, even living here in in Canada, North America, like women are still very much judged on our looks, you know. Right. And they said it's like we're judged on what we can do for people, and like even when you're dating is kind of the same concept, you know. Dating is just like you're getting to know the person, but you're thinking in your head, what can you do for me as a spouse, you know? What can you do for me as a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you know, or a partner? Can I see you being a good provider? Can I see you being a good companion? You know, like are you someone I can see my life with? But the difference is is that when you're being matchmaked in these specific situations in the film, you don't get that opportunity to test the person. You know, you don't get that time to see, is this person someone I can build a life with? The girls aren't even afforded that chance. Like, you know, it's the people outside their relationship that's doing that for them. Because even, and I appreciate you showing it, that even for the young men, they're not even given a voice. You know, it's their uncles, their cousins, the grandfathers, it's these other men making the choices for them. So I appreciate that you show that for many of the young men, they themselves don't have a choice.
Right.
You know, they themselves are just sitting there listening and like not having much of an opinion. And it kind of shows like patriarchy damages both men and women.
Right.
You know, it's dangerous to both men and women. And in speaking about that, the other option, the other side of that was her father. I think Savita's father, he's kind of a heartbreaking character, where like this man is willing to put himself in debt to pay this money to this man who is this young man's cousin, I believe, and he's willing to put himself in debt for this man. And you're thinking, oh, this is a very stupid thing to do. Like, how could you put yourself and your family in debt? You're willing to lose your farm. But then the more I thought about it, is like, he himself is bowing to pressure. You know, he himself is trying to live up to this idea of what a good father is. Like him being poor, he is looked at as a failure. Not necessarily for him, because he was happy before. Right. But now he has this complete stranger telling him, you have to pay me these five rupees, right. And then, but the equivalent is a lot of money. And he's thinking, I don't match up to this person. And you know, it makes you think, why is it we let strangers dictate what we can and can't do? You know, like my family was perfectly happy. My family was fine. Well, not perfectly happy. There were still struggles, but he didn't feel inadequate as a father. You know, he didn't feel inadequate as a man till this other person came and say, you can't serve, you can't do this, so therefore you're worthless. So I want you both to talk about showing that other side of patriarchy and how it affects men, especially in particular in like Indian society or in societies where, for instance, how the matchmaking affects the men as well.
I think in arranged marriage, this kind of setup, the boys side, the boys side has a power. Like again, it's a patriarchy. Like girl's father. I always say there is a saying, no, the marriages are made in heaven, mm-hmm. but to make it happen, someone has to go through hell. Yeah, it's true. That's so, you should put that on your shirt. So most of them is girl and her family. Sorry. So it's most of them is a girl and her family. Mm-hmm. So I think the boys side, has always they are like on pedestal, like they demand. Right. They come to see girl. They ask questions, and if they like, they whatever. They then ask for dowry. Mm-hmm. They ask for anything like big presentation, like motorcycle, car, anything. So always again, it's the power dynamics. Like boy side is like.
Got the upper hand.
Got upper hand. So the scene you are describing. So again, there is a patriarchy, like patriarchy within patriarchy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a. So, it's a power. You can say power game. Yeah. So because the Daulat Rao is like from middle class family, and he's like farmer. He's like, no, you bechara person. But the professor's father is like well-to-do family. They come from very क्या बोलते हैं?
More affluent.
Yeah, they have a higher status in society, and a lot of it has to do with the profession, right? Because there was a point being made about the men having government jobs. Oh, yeah. It's about the stability and the status.
It's very important in rural India or in most part of the India, government job a lot. Like
job
everything.
Security.
Yeah, job security.
It's the same in the Caribbean actually.
Exactly, because you see when Savita's brother, like Mangya, we show he's unemployed. Mm-hmm. So he's also finding it difficult to get married. Yeah. Because even for boys to get married, the boys should have a very stable and secure job. And if the job is government, then nothing
you're
like
the king.
That. Yeah.
You rule.
Yeah. So it's a security. So I think you can add more about patriarchy.
No, it's true because in the Caribbean it's the same. If you have a government job, you are set because like even if you I think it's if you stay past like a certain amount of years, like you're basically enshrined in your position, and then once you retire, like your golden parachute is that like you get like forever pension, right? And your pension is like pretty high, and like people love it if you get a government job. You're just like, I'm gonna stay here forever.
Even like a government job is demand like they ask for a better dowry. So
and then next comes an engineer, which he gave up.
Your parents must have been like, but why?
Like professor, engineer, and government job. Like if you're an IS officer, IPS officer, or in many part of the India, like they demand like any very big amount dowry. It's not it's a sin, but they can ask anything if you have a government job.
And for you, like in talk, like you just mentioned, the engineer job. Like, what was it like for you watching this kind of story being played out on screen? Because, as I said, it made me think. Like, I've thought about how patriarchy affects men, and how it affects young boys. But in seeing how this particular instance is played out on screen, I just like, like the dads themselves are under pressure too, like some of them may not want to marry off their daughters, but it's what is expected of them, so they go ahead and do it anyway, knowing that their daughters are going to resent them and they may ruin their relationships.
No, I think like he said, we come from different backgrounds. So I've grown up in urban India where things are different, but if you like scratch the surface beneath that, they're not very different, because there may not be this kind of an objectification overtly, but beneath the surface, it's the same. Because there is a lot of pressure on a girl to get married at the right time. If the girl is not married and she's a certain age, then, that is there something wrong? Is there a problem? Why isn't she getting married? And there may not be sort of a demand for dowry, but there are expectations for there to be a certain amount of gifts that the girl's family will give. Naturally, it's not a demand, but it's there. So I think the things are done in more undercover ways in urban India, but they are still done.
The process, I think, in arranged marriage, the process is different in urban India and rural India, but the mentality is the same.
The mentality is the same.
Even rich people or in urban India, they look for stability. They look for financial stability.
The main thing.
They check the backgrounds of the girl. They check the background.
Or have me. They were like, "What clan is your mother?" I'm like, "Listen to me."
The only difference is the process. I think, everything is same. Like
and the patriarchy is also very prevalent. I'm sure it's global. I think we women, even in urban India, we are conditioned to behave in certain ways, and that's been a traditional upbringing thing that we've grown up with. So even today, I think I consider myself a very progressive woman.
Right.
But I think I take on certain roles. It's very difficult for me to shake them off and to not worry about where, if there are guests at home, then what are they going to eat, and is there going to be food? I feel like it's my responsibility. He may want to share it, but it's my conditioning that I
It's conditioning, basically.
So the patriarchy and the notions of what women must or must not do are quite embedded in our hearts and minds.
Right, because we're taught from very young, to look after the house, clean, sweep, cook, prepare the clothes, do the laundry. Like, I grew up with my twin sister, and our brother's 10 years older, and our mom taught him to do all of that himself, like because he's 10 years older. But even then, like, not just her, but like all the other mothers that I knew and the grandmothers, like, they still expect us to do these things, not for ourselves, but for if you get married. They'll be saying, if you were doing this, like, what would your husband think? I'm like, what are you asking me about a husband? Like, I'm not looking for a husband right now, but that's the first thing they'll say. If you can't cook something, would your husband be satisfied with this meal? I'm like, why should we think about a man that I don't even know? But that's how it is, We're expected to think of these things in context of marriage, in context of being a mother, in context of being a caregiver for people that you don't even know, And then and I know I want to talk a bit more about the technical aspects of the film, because I think what you guys did with the technical aspects of the film is very interesting. Like, I mentioned the father and him like wanting to sell the land, the cotton farm, which I thought was interesting that it was a cotton farm, but to pay off this dowry. But there's a scene that I love. I think it's probably my favorite scene in the film, where he's talking on the phone the teacher, with the professor's cousin, the person who's arranging the meetup.
The professor's father.
It's the professor's father, sorry, right? He's arranging this meetup, but while they're on the phone, they're both talking. It's like the subtext is there. It's all about selling, buying and selling. So they're talking on the phone about this dowry, but the professor's father is in this market, and he's every time the farmers are saying they're saying this is our person. He's haggling.
Yeah.
You know, and like he's thinking that. He's telling Savita's father, oh, like you don't have enough money, you're not doing this, not doing that. But he's still being very cheap.
Bargaining, yeah.
He's bargaining, and he's also being very cheap because they name a person. He's like, you can't come down lower, and if they can't come down lower, he's moving on. Yeah. I was thinking you're a hypocrite because you don't even want to pay the dowry price for these vegetables, for this produce, but you're demanding that someone else pay this dowry that you're bargaining for. So I love that particular scene. I think it's my favorite in the film because it's juxtaposed with Savita and her I think her education, because it's like she's bargaining her education at the same time, you know, like she's bargaining, can I keep my education, can I continue my education, but can I still do this, you know, and it's like there's a give and take, but then sometimes you lose, you know. So I saw her as like the farmers in the market where no matter what she does, no matter what price she offers, like she's gonna lose out in the end. So I want both of you to talk about this from your perspective as a producer, but then also as the director, like doing those particular scenes. So I love that scene. I love when you have a scene where it's like the whole theme comes down into something that's happening in the background. Like they're talking, but everything, the whole context of the film is in that one particular sequence.
Right. Yeah, you spoke a lot about that scene. I never thought about it.
No, I love it. I replayed it. I was just like, ooh, this is like
very good. Like I felt very good after, you know, you got the film basically. You got the film and you are like dissecting it like anything. So very good, very nicely. So again, it's a mentality basically. Though he's rich, he's affluent, but he's backward in his like.
He's retrogressive. The father of the boy.
Right. He has the same thing, like the old thinking, regressive thinking. He's like, he's doing the same thing basically. Right. He's like, as you rightly said, we are treating the girl as commodity in the whole film. They are like judging on her look, on their height. So same thing he's doing. Mm-hmm. Like for the 5 rupee, 10 rupees, like bangle, like
bangle. Eggplant.
No, bangan.
Eggplant.
Acha, the vegetable.
Oh, that's the eggplant.
Bangan, yeah.
Oh, okay. No wonder the word.
Yeah. So it's a vegetable. So like he's judging bangan is 5 rupees. No, it's too costly. Like he's so. I want to show the same thing. Like he's how he's judging the bangan or his commodity. He's doing the same thing with her. And he said, if you pay me, or my son has many choices. Like, he will get anything. Like,
so she is exactly like the eggplant.
Sorry, I am trying to say.
No, it's okay. Take your time.
If this bangan is costly, I can go to another shop and can buy another bangan.
Even though he can afford the
I can buy. It's like, I can buy. I can buy this. If you are not ready to pay me this price, I can go ahead.
It's a buyer's market.
It's a buyer's market. It's a bias market basically.
And the thing is like he can afford it, but he just wants to be cheap. You know, he wants to be difficult. And that's the thing. Rich people can be some of the cheapest people you know.
Yes.
And it's very true. They'll spend money on like a watch or thing, but when it comes to the things that affect other people, they'll be so cheap.
Like the professor, like he has no say. The professor father, like the professor father said, "Ki my son will not go
against
my word."
Right.
Like there is we have to send the patriarchy. Like he's the boss. Because my son have many choices, and if you are ready to pay this amount, I'm okay. Otherwise, Okay.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's also patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
It's the father who will decide.
Fatherhood, basically.
The son doesn't
Yeah.
have a voice.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily do with girls, but even the son, even they have no word, they have no say, because they are like, no, oh, my father is great, my father is, so they are like.
That's also the conditioning and tradition
Conditioning.
that has been in
Right.
place.
Yeah.
Right, and I want to talk about another aspect of conditioning in the culture, and this is something I think is very subtle. I was wondering if it was intentional. So like one of the things that happens is Savita eventually they're going to kind of like a speed dating situation where there's all of these young men and young women come up. They give the same thing that she says in being film: height, weight, their backgrounds, their education level. But one thing I found that was very interesting, there's a banner that's displayed outside the meeting square, and this banner has a woman who's very clear skin, has very narrow features, and I know with regards to like in Indian culture, colorism is very rampant, you know, like people, like you have like the Brahmins. I don't know, is it still politically correct to say Brahmins? Because I know there's like the different like you mentioned the caste, but there's like the Brahmins. That's what I think this is what it used to be called in Barbados, but like they're very clear skin, very people who looked like Aishwarya Rai, you know, like but that's what it would be. But that's like who's on the banner, you know, this young woman who could like pass for that. But then all the young women who are there in person look like Savita. They're darker skin, they're like look more natural, like they have curvier figures, they're not like a size 0, you know, they're not models. So I when I saw that, I was thinking, this is how, in people's mind, this is what setting up these young men and their parents to think this is who's going to be there. And then when they go and see the reality is something completely different, you know. So I wanted to ask you about that, because it also talks in how in society kind of like teaches these men expect the perfect wife, you know, she has to have the perfect face, the perfect body, and all of this. But then when they see women who are regular looking women, you know, just like everyday women, they're like, I might as well settle for you. So it's kind of like doing like a mind game at the beginning, and then it's just like kind of messes with them when they're going in. So talk about that particular sequence, and then how that plays into the whole
it's like India. I don't know about the world, but even whole world very obsessed with the fair skin.
Oh, it's the same in the Caribbean.
Same, huh?
Yeah.
Everywhere.
We call it the paper bag test. If you're darker than the paper, if you're someone with my complexion, you're just like considered to be less attractive.
The same thing. What I have shown in the film is the same thing. Like even for Savita, why she's not getting married? But because she's short in height, she's not fair skin. She has not fair skin. In one discussion, the guest goes outside and discuss her skin. One of them said, "But I found her fair." No, check her elbow.
Yeah.
So like people look at her like.
And the boy in that discussion, he says, she's quite short.
And he himself is very short. He's very short. So exactly. So I think the colorism is all over. So I want to address that point. You actually noticed a very good thing like that on the billboard hoardings. There is a fair result, because when you see matrimonial ads in India, I think it is true to all the world. But in matrimonial ads, there is special requirement: girl with fair skin, height should be like whatever 5.6 to 5.8. There should be like a body, like good figure. So I think these are the observations I have tried to portray in the film. So I think it's a reality. There is nothing much to say, because it's all over the world. And in rural India, I think it's a fair. The fairer you are beautiful. Nothing to do with beautiful means you are fair.
Right.
It's nothing to do with your eyes, your presence. The fairer means you are beautiful.
Yeah.
That's why there is so much market of fairness cream and talcum powder. Although last year there was a very there was a protest. That's why the fairness cream, Fair and Lovely, you know, they changed their name to, I think, they dropped the word fair and lovely. So because Fair and Lovely has a huge market in India, because all the stars like film industry, like actors, they endorse fairness cream. So people from rural India, people who are like whitish, like dark, they like. I know, because I also use Fair and Lovely in my childhood.
Yeah, I know how it is, because actually those products were sold in Barbados and they're sold in Africa too. Like
I know. So do the cream, Fair and Lovely cream and put like this and massage.
And talcum powder. It's used in rural India all the time. Just take talcum powder.
Yeah.
It's the same in the Caribbean. Like growing up, it was the same thing. Like bleaching creams and bleaching. So I used to be very as I mentioned, very self-conscious, because like people would tell me about my dark skin. So there was a soap called Tura, and it was actually lye. It's like lye, like the thing you would use to like wash clothes. But the girls would wash our faces with it, because like it would eventually bleach out your skin, because it's meant to wash detergent. It's like a laundry detergent, and like it has the same effect. The elbow, like it's the same thing in the Caribbean. Like when babies are born, you look at the elbow. People say, "Oh, look at the elbows or look at the ears."
Right.
You can tell how dark they're going to be by looking at their ears. So it's the same thing. So when that scene with the man was like, "Look at her elbows," I was like, yeah. I'm like,
because you can't hide the face.
Yeah, we can't hide the elbows. Yeah,
exactly.
It's the same way. So I want to ask you now. I think we're gonna have to wrap up now, because I think they're getting ready to close down.
Okay.
Shush. So for a woman growing up in a society where looks are, I think, next to wealth and status, it's looks. You know, like how do you maintain your confidence? Like for me, it took me years to find my self-confidence and be happy with how I look. And I can't even really say that 100%, because sometimes I still have like the little thoughts in my head, things that people would say. But like, how did for you, like when you're and finding yourself in a society that demands so much of women, that judges women and like says, oh, you're not good enough just for existing in the body that you're in. But how do you find that surety and like then putting that into your career, because you're a producer for this film, and then you have to, in the film industry anywhere, like we still have to fight for our positions, hold on to it. So like for you, Shefali, how do you hold on to that, and how did you find it?
Well, for me, I think it was relatively easier, because I grew up in a family that was so-called progressive, and they really encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to do. But yes, I see it all around me all the time, and it boils down to simple things like I'm a filmmaker as well. I'm a producer and a director, and in my debut film I wanted to cast a girl who is not fair, and I received a lot of resistance for that from prospective financiers, and so she's very attractive and very striking, but again, everything is conditioning. She should be fair, and so for me, I think there are battles. I think there are battles that we must fight within ourselves more than with the outside world, because if we go out there and we are oblivious to any of it, and we insist on what we want for the right reasons, then I think they take us that much more seriously. So it is our own conditioning and our internal battles that we have to fight more than any others.
Right, we gotta break my mom would say break the cycle, but we have to break, like you said, the conditioning, because that stuff does become very ingrained in us, especially if we're told it from very young. You kind of internalize it, even when people say, oh, you don't have to do this, but you still, in your back of your head, you keep thinking the questions that people ask you, or the things that they say you have to. And I think for women in particular, it's an ongoing challenge, especially even as society becomes more progressive, it seems to be becoming regressive at the same time. We're still, as like they're saying, oh, breaking the glass ceiling for women, but then it's just like, but I feel like the glass ceiling is becoming lowered, so like it's becoming more challenging to break the glass ceiling, because it's just a bit lower than it was before. So yeah, and that, I think it kind of ties into the end of the film, because there's a sequence at the end where Savita, she has the same dream at the beginning, and I'm just like wondering, I hope she really did slap him this time. I hope it wasn't a dream. And I think that's the thing with the film, like for women, like a lot of this stuff has to do with making dreams realities. Like she can't keep dreaming about taking back power. You know, she has to eventually take the power for herself. So I hope the last scene is really her, that it's not a dream. So we're wrapping up. Thank you so much, Shefali. Thank you so much, Jayant, for talking with me today about your film, A Match. I really did enjoy it, and there was a point that we didn't have that I wanted to talk about, but we didn't have enough time, and that's the romance. It's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet romance between Sabina's best friend and this young boy she's talking about. There was something you actually mentioned before, where with regards to like the whole culture is like the parents controlling these interactions, but for these young people, they're controlling the interactions themselves. And I didn't really want to talk about it because it would be, like, I think, a spoiler, because it's a nice surprise in the film. But I think it's a really good way of showing how technology is actually giving these young people a way to control their own interactions and their own romances and deciding their own fates. Right, so I think I love their interactions. They were funny, like the scene with the parents, the two mothers were arguing. I'm just like, that was funny to me. But yeah, but I love that. I love that you made sure you added in that part, because I kind of saw it as a way to show how younger generations are taking control of their lives and their romances and I think they're not only just romantic interactions, but just friendships, because there are people who say, oh, boys and girls shouldn't be friends, but I'm like, you don't want to be friends, but you want to go jump straight into marriage and having children. But yeah.
And like in small town, it's not very people disapprove like romance. Yeah, in open, like they call it lapra. In Hindi, it's word called lapra. Lapra, you can say it's
like a fiasco.
Okay.
So you can't romance in open. You can't. In rural area, like
can be done.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on your world premiere. Here today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. I hope you have a great festival. Rest and pace yourself, because TIFF can be a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think we'll wrap up here. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yay. So everyone, that was another episode of Carolyn Talks. This was my first official interview for the 2023 Toronto International Film Festival, and I had the absolute pleasure of speaking with writer and director Jayant Somalkar and producer Shefali Bhushan. They were so great to talk to. I'm so happy they were my first interview. They were a lot of fun to speak to about their film. I actually ran into them a few times at TIFF, and also I was able to congratulate them in person for the film winning the NETPAC Award at the end of the festival. I'm so happy for them. This is such a good film, and I think it's also a very important film, and I hope that when they get to screen it at home in India and in different communities and at different festivals, that they receive all the applause and all the congratulations and celebration for making a film that highlights the struggles of young women in India, teenage girls in India, as well as their family, and how patriarchy negatively impacts not only their cultures but other cultures around the world, because matchmaking is not only done in India, it's done all around the world in all different cultures by people of different races and ethnicities in different countries. And this film, I think, was very necessary, because for me, it made me really think, this is something I've thought about before, like how patriarchy does negatively affect men, but I'm glad that this film does show it, because there aren't many films that look at how patriarchy negatively affects young men and fathers in this way, with such, I think, a clear-eyed approach, as well as such a nuanced approach. So I appreciate Jayant doing that with this film, and also just like his cast. The lead actress Nadini Chikte, she was fantastic, as was mentioned in the interview. Like most of everyone in the cast are novice performers. Like for people who would never acted before, they did I think a phenomenal job. And to be able to win an award like the NETPAC Award, which was created for TIFF to highlight Asian stories, I think it was really important. So thank you to Jayant and Shefali for speaking with me. And as I said, this is my first interview for TIFF, which means there'll be many more coming. This is the podcast version. So of course, there'll be the video version on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@Carolyn_Hinds. That's CAROLYN_Hinds, HINDS. You'll find my other interviews for the New York Asian Film Festival there, as well as the Busan International Short Film Festival. Links are there, but you can also on the K Crush America site, as well as other written interviews I've done for websites like Joy Sauce and Variety Magazine and Observer on my R3 page. That's authoryauthory.com/Carolyn Hinds. Go to my social media at Carrie, CNH12, where you can find links and prompts to my previous interviews, as well as those for the African American Film Critics Association
virtual roundtables. That's the AFCA virtual roundtables, where we speak to Black creatives in the film and television industry. And it's always such a pleasure to get to speak to people making stories about Black people by Black people. And this year at TIFF, I think has been one of probably my best year at TIFF, though, because I had so much fun meeting people again. But I think this was also the first time I got to interview so many amazing filmmakers, performers, producers. And I have other interviews that will be coming that weren't recorded during the festival, but will be recorded after. So look forward to those as well. So I'm going to sign out here. So as usual, everyone, until the next episode of Carolyn Talks, stay safe. Bye.